Good day, everyone, and welcome once again to the Believer's Lounge. Hey, thank you for joining us. We're glad you're with us for today's episode. Now, today's episode is an exciting one because we're going to be chatting about Christian music ministry and being a Christian musician in a secular world today. For this episode, we have a special guest joining us. So I would like to welcome Gavin Fockens to the podcast. How are you doing today, Gavin?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So Gavin is from Orillia, Ontario. He is a husband and a father. He's a lead singer-songwriter and bassist for the Christian rock band 1 Degree, and also a singer-songwriter and bassist for a secular rock band. He's actually an old friend of mine, to be honest, as we both went to Bible college at the same time. And so, again, welcome to the podcast, Gavin. We're looking forward to what you have to share with us today.
All right. Yeah, no, looking forward to it. It's great to be on. Thanks for having me.
Now, today, unfortunately, John couldn't join us. He's busy for this week, and so it will just be myself and Gavin on this episode today. Now, before we get started, Gavin, you mentioned that you were a singer-songwriter and bassist for a band. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about that with us?
Absolutely. Yeah, no. So I'm the lead singer and songwriter and bass player for two bands, a Christian band called 1 Degree and a secular band called Hiraeth. 1 Degree, it was comprised of me and two other guys. I am presently the only member because one guy had to move away, where there's no bad blood or anything. One guy had to move away, and the other guy had other commitments. But we've actually just put out an EP called 1 Degree EP. It's self-titled. There's 3 songs on there, and if you like kind of a metal alt rock sound similar to Skillet or Thousand Foot Crutch, you'll love that. So go check it out. It's on all streaming platforms. And I'm also as I stated, I'm the singer, songwriter, and bassist for a band called Hiraeth. And that band is me and another guy who I met through a friend's wedding, a guy by the name of Dale McGill. And he is not a Christian, so I'm the only Christian in this project. But as a lead singer, I'm able to, the lyrics aren't raunchy or anything. That's very important to me because I think you can write good music without the censored version having more in common with a blank CD. But no, so it's two different dynamics. You are writing one song where Jesus is the focus, and then there's the other world where Jesus is still the focus, but it's not as, I guess, in people's faces, I guess is the way to put it. And no, so that's fun and interesting. I mean, I write all the songs. I mean, with Hiraeth, me and Dale, we co-write a lot of them. There's been a few times he's tried to throw like maybe God's Name in Vain there. I'm like, dude, I'm not singing that. Don't make me sing that. You cannot make me sing that. But no, and I'm also the bass player for both of them because even though I can play guitar, I am not a lead guitarist at all. So I will not be writing lead lines very often. I wrote the lead parts for Tired, the first track on our EP. That's because Matt had moved away by the time we were ready to record them, so I just did it myself. But for most of the time, I'm a rhythm guitarist, and I'm a far better bass player. And so it's just easier to be the bass player than to find one. And also, John Cooper Skillet has been a huge influence in being a bass player and a singer. So there's that too.
For sure. Well, thank you for thank you for giving us kind of a rundown of your two projects there, and that's what we hope to. We'll discuss a little bit of this in the episode as well, but we're going to talk about the different kinds of Christian music ministry and how that relates to the different environments that we're in. So again, thank you for sharing, Gavin. Please do go check Gavin's projects out. I've listened to the 1 Degree EP already. I was telling Gavin before the recording here that I really do like the sound. It's really well done, I think, really polished. And as a fan of Thousand Foot Crutch myself, I can hear a lot of I can hear some influences in that music, and so also being a fan of Skillet, right? There's that as well. So yeah, great EP. Please go do check that out if that style of music is something you're interested in. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Alrighty, so Christian music ministry. Well, let's. There's a lot to unpack from that. Let's start, if you don't mind. Let's start with that, and then later maybe we'll transition into what being a Christian musician in a secular environment kind of looks like. But to start off, and you've alluded to some of it already. But when we look at Christian music ministry, what is it? What does that mean? And how is it different than, the regular music market, right? Or even how is it different than just Christian music, right? Because there's a lot of music that I guess in a way you can tell it's kind of specific to a certain environment. Like, if, I don't know, for example, if Hillsong or Newsboys or bands like that release music, well, you kind of have an idea. Oh, it's for like, this kind of Christian community, or, oh, that song sounds like a worship song that will be for the church, right? And things like that. So what's Christian music ministry? And I just kind of want to give that to you as a question there, Gavin. What is that to you, and how is it different than everything else?
That's a really good question. Christian music ministry. Well, really, we all have a ministry as followers of Christ, as Christians. We all have a ministry, and mine just happens to be music, which I feel like I sometimes use the term Christian music kind of loosely, because I do recognize there is Christian music, because your faith impacts everything that you do, and that should include the music you write, the books you write, movies you make.
Of course, yes.
But at the same time, I also acknowledge, like, for example, like for someone's livelihood, like for example, there's also something as Christian plumbing, and frankly, if my toilet's doing this, you can make it do this, you're hired, Buddha. Okay, I do not care what your belief system is if you can fix my toilet. But at the same time, I do recognize that Christian music is very much a real thing, because like you have, and it's a label that I think we should be taken very seriously too, because I'm getting a little off track here, but there's a lot of bands that claim Christianity, but they are not truly, they know they're not saved. They know that they are making a mint off of listeners like you and me, and they're out there. So it's a label that sometimes people don't take seriously, which to those people, if there's anyone who has not truly put their faith in Jesus, who is getting into Christian music ministry, the only kindest thing I can say is to get out. There's already rot in Christian music. We don't need people to further make it rot even more, because we had earlier this year, I don't know if you know who Lil Nas X is. He's like a rapper. He did a very blasphemous song called J Christ, and had very blasphemous images of him being crucified on a cross and everything else, like in drag, basically. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. So he was trying to do a Christian music phase, and of course, everyone on both the Christian and non-Christian side went nuts, of course. So no, that's just kind of a bit of a warning I would give. But Christian music ministry, it's literally just simply that. Your ministry is music. Everyone has a ministry, and we're meant to preach the gospel at all times. Whether you're serving tables at a restaurant or working in an office, slapping a bass on a stage, okay, it doesn't matter. You have a ministry. In fact, I remember a former worship pastor at my church saying, if you are a Christian musician or a worship artist, you are a theologian. The question is, are you a good one? Because the stuff you write or sing about, that reflects your theology.
Oh, for
So you
sure.
have some worship songs there and that you listen to, but then you go back to the scriptures and you're like, wait, the Bible doesn't actually say this. Hold on, like,
That's
and
that's
this
so
one,
accurate. Yeah.
which the one that always pops into my mind, which it sucks for me because it's such a catchy song. Part of me likes it, but I know it's not 100% true. And you may disagree. That's fine. Is "Reckless Love." I, it's a catchy song. I can sing it really well, but what you do have to ask the question: is God's love truly reckless? Because it's never actually mentioned in the Bible as being reckless, as being careless. There's actually a Christian worship alt metal band. Yes, there's worship alternative metal out there by a band called Jesus Wannabes. And when I first heard the name of the band, I was like, oh, this is going to be utter cheese. It's not. They have a song called Sovereign Love that was a response to Reckless Love. And lyrically, they actually use scripture in the song to actually describe what God's love is truly like. So you have those two things. You have a song that may not be reckless love is slightly true, but it's not true enough. And then you have a song like Sovereign Love, which you wouldn't sing in church. You would not have someone doing gutturals or screams into a microphone on Sunday morning unless you wanted the seniors in the front row to kick it. But but no, you have those two lines. There was a fine line, and I even remember when I think it was back in 2020, 2019 maybe, when the whole deconstruction thing was taking off. John Cooper said there were songs that he's even written that he would not want sung in church because they're not true enough of the character of God, and it's quite frankly very disrespectful to the Lord to sing songs to him that are not completely true of his character.
For sure, oh, for sure, exactly. And you raise some good points here too, because we realize that music ministry is essentially just that. It's us. We all have a different ministry that we can do regardless of where we are, and just for us musicians, that's kind of a different atmosphere, and one that, especially today, and especially within the last 5 years, is coming under attack, and we really need to be biblically sound in our ministry. And if we don't
Yes.
have the foundation of being biblically sound, being guided by the Holy Spirit, we're going to get caught up in the tsunami of chaos and unbelief and even hypocrisy and outwardly, because that's what regardless of what your opinion is, our world today is getting worse. It's
Yes.
just much plainly getting worse. And so we almost have to be even more diligent in our ministry today. And we need
Absolutely.
to, you know what I mean? And we need to be able to again, be willing to put the work and the effort in whatever we're doing. And God calls us to do that. He says in the Bible, and in whatever we do it for the glory of God. I'm paraphrasing here, mind you, but
Yes.
we're told that what we do matters. Faith without any works is dead. We're told that we need to show what we believe. Very popular saying or song, I guess you could say, back in the day is they know we are Christians by our love. And so our actions do speak quite a bit. And so we're seeing all over social media, like I said, with the points that you did mention, how this is changing, how people they're not, especially in the music world now, and I think you can agree with me, it's not just subtle things, it's right in your face now, like bold in your face, whether that's whether that's for an issue they want, or whether, like you mentioned, that's just mocking God or things like that. It's bolder, it's in your face, and
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? And in today's
Yeah.
culture, we need to not just let that slide. And so,
Well, exactly, because I shared this over the summer. There's another podcast I listen to called the Westminster Effects podcast, which, side note, Westminster Effects is a Christian-owned guitar pedal effects company. They're all handmade pedals. They own one of their pedals. So that's more Sin of Skill, its signature pedal. But anyways, they released an episode about a new song by Bring Me the Horizon, which I'm sure you know who that is. Well, they featured Spencer Chamberlain and Aaron Gillespie from Under Oath on the song, which a few years ago, Under Oath just completely deconstructed their faith, and not just deconstructed the faith like, oh, we love Jesus, but we're not really Christians anymore. No, they're riding the we hate Jesus train. Because there's a lyric in the bridge that both Spencer and Aaron sing, and I'm going to bleep it out a little bit, but if Jesus comes back, we'll just kill the bleeper twice. So it's getting very, very much bold in your face. And people are saying the quiet part out loud now, I've noticed, with a lot of this stuff. And like and there's even some bands, like, they've not totally disavowed the faith, but they're becoming, for lack of a better term, apostate. And it's sad because there's even some worship bands I like that are doing this. Like Marty Sampson of Hillsong has said he's genuinely losing his faith. The lead singer of Brent Collective has said, stuff like, we should be agreeing with some people may not like me saying this, so I apologize, but said we should be trying on the right side of history when it comes to things like transgenderism and whatnot. And he's like, the Bible's not clear on any of this sort of stuff, which it clearly is. So it's stuff it's becoming, and one thing that I've noticed is a common trait with each one of these deconstruction stories or people going apostate stories in the Christian music industry is they have no accountability. And I cannot stress this enough. If you're in the Christian music industry, or if you are a Christian in the secular music industry, and I am both, you must have accountability in your life. Like, otherwise, the world is going to eat you alive. Because there's lots of non-Christians, as I've said when we were chatting before, that are in the Christian music industry. They're not saved, and they're making a mint off of us. I mean, one example that sticks out in my head was As I Lay Dying. They faked their Christianity for years just to get popularity. Okay. So it's, yeah. And of course, Tin Lambesis, like back when, actually during our first year of Bible college together, he was convicted of trying to hire a hitman to kill his estranged wife, and somehow the plot involved their 2 adopted kids.
Which is just absolutely crazy when you hear that, right? And it just goes to show you that that people can say anything. They can say anything they want, but God knows the heart, and we're seeing a lot of people out there who are not genuine Christians and using the platform for gains, and B, or not being genuine, or not again being biblically sound and accountable, like you're saying, in their ministry. And Jesus said, if you want to go off, again, paraphrasing here, please be mindful of that. But if you want to go off and do what you want with your life, that's your reward. But if you, you know what I mean? But as Christians, as followers of Jesus, and you know this, you would know that people would know this more, the more connected you are with others. It's kind of hard to tell what a popular figurehead is because we don't know them at a relationship level. But it's important to note that if you are a genuine follower of Jesus, it will show through your life. It will show through what you do, what you say. We're not perfect, okay? We're gonna screw up, and we've screwed up many times, right? That's a fact of life.
Right.
But in your attitude and what you do, it will show. And I believe that 100%. Like if you, but sometimes it's difficult, especially with these figures in these groups. A lot of the times we as the listeners only see what they want us to see. And so,
exactly.
You know what I mean? And it's so difficult in that way. And so I kind of want to take the conversation over to our next point here, and I want to talk kind of with you, Gavin, personally. How as you as an artist use kind of your have you had a chance to use your platform as an artist to be a witness for Christ to others, and what kind of influences have you been able to do in your time?
Yes. There was a gig that I played several years ago. In fact, it's actually quite a story. I was scheduled to play at a recovery group that's held in the church in Barrie. And my wife, Joy Lynn, she drove me there in a snowstorm on the highway. It was we're driving there. And, well, my mother-in-law is looking after our son back at home. We're like, are we going to book a travel lodge or something? Because I don't know if we're going to make it back. And we ended up making it to the gig and whatnot. And she worked the soundboard. I sang the songs. And the house band was supposed to be there. The house band pulled out, so I had to play it all acoustically. 4 songs. 2 originals, 2 covers. And there was one song that I wrote, an acoustic song that was already acoustic, called Healed. And the song in question was about my experience dealing with depression and self-harm, but how in Isaiah 53:5, how it says we are by his stripes we are healed. And of course, that's like a 53:5b. That's like the latter half of that verse. It's not the whole verse. Mm-hmm. But it's something that I've always, and it's not just, like, of course, the physical scars that God has healed, but like any emotional damage I've done to myself, any sinful damage done to myself, physical damage that I've had from self-harm, God has wiped the slate clean in, and that was the message of the song. The amount of people I had come up to me over that song was overwhelming, because it was like, wow, I didn't think this song was actually going to have this much impact on people. Really, I didn't.
And we don't usually, you know what I mean? Like, sorry to interrupt you there. I was just agreeing with your point. Yeah, usually we don't realize kind of the scope of how God can use us a lot of the times, right? And so it's sometimes we don't know what to do, eh?
Yeah, no, it was blowing me, and I had to catch myself, because I almost got a big head. I was like, no, Lord, you're the one doing the work here. You're doing this for your glory. This is not about me. Which, this little side thing, anyone plays in a worship, and I play on the worship at my church too as the bass player. If you're playing in a rock group, fine, you're a rock star. My kid actually thinks I'm a rock star because I just released a little 3-track EP. He actually said to his friend when we were out together, like, I want to be a rock star like my daddy when I grow up. But if you're on the worship team, I should clarify to some people, because I think it's a headspace some people get when they're on this platform with an instrument. You are not a rock star if you're on the worship team. We're going to say that real quick. You are not a rock star on the worship team.
No,
but
for
anyways,
sure.
no. I mean, because that's the thing that people sometimes get. Like, you'll think, oh, look at me, I'm on the worship team, I'm popular. Like, no, you are just a servant. You are not meant to be a distraction. You're just meant to carry the music. That's all you're doing.
Exactly.
But no, I lost my train of thought. Where were we?
We're just talking about how your influences have shaped you there. Yeah.
Yes, and I find that it's not even just me as an artist in general, because I have several tattoos. Almost all of them have a spiritual or scriptural meaning. The only ones that don't are a memento mori piece that I have and my wedding ring. But no, I have one tattoo on my shoulder that is a guitar with a cross incorporated into it, and it has the lyrics to Skillet's song Salvation, You Are My Salvation, on it, and have people look at that and they go, what's that about? And I evangelize to them through that. Or they look at the crown of thorns on the back of my hand and they're like, what's that? And I actually had one kid say, oh, so it's barbed wire. I'm like, no, it's a crown of thorns. You mean like Jesus? Yeah. He was like, wait, and this is a kid who I worked with at the restaurant I used to work with at the time. Wait, you're a Christian? Yeah. And you might laugh at this. You might be offended. I don't know. I laughed. But he's like, I always thought that Christians were, I don't know if you've watched The Simpsons. I was like, you think we're all like Ned Flanders? He's like, yeah. Like, we're not like that. We're not all of us like Ned Flanders, dude. Okay. And I showed him the gospel through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's there's so many different ways of using um, your time or your energy in order to be used by God to minister wherever you are.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean? And you're right. We all, as Christians, we don't, we're all vastly different people with different different skills that we have and different histories, right? We're not all in
Right.
like this one image. And I understand a lot of people can see us as, okay, oh, you're a Christian, then you must look like this, you do this, you act like this. And we, on the one hand, not to get off topic here, but on the one hand, we do want to uh, look and act in the way that Jesus says for us to. That's important. But
Exactly.
at the
Yes.
same time, we're all individually different with different skill sets and different spiritual gifts and different places, things that we do in environments that we're in. And so there's a lot that we can do. And something you mentioned, and I think it really sticks with me too, is sometimes just by going and being in a place, you might be able to share God in a way that you're not expecting. So, for instance, for an example here, like you might go to an event either to play music, like you did there, or by taking a part in a talk or like whatever, and then yet you might be able to share about Jesus by someone striking up a conversation about a topic that's totally different for the reason that you're there. So
Right.
just by being in those environments, and getting back to music and music as our ministry too. Regardless of where we are, there are so many different ways that God can use us. And so it's just being obedient, right? It's just
Mm-hmm.
saying, yeah, I'm going to do this. And if, and you know what? And if God wants you somewhere, he'll make a way. Like,
Oh yeah, he will. He will. I mean,
it's not that clear. It's not that simple a lot of the time, especially from our viewpoint, but that's the truth. Right. And so, that is that's just something I wanted to mention there, like to keep in mind,
yeah.
especially in kind of what you're saying there too. Yeah.
Yeah. And to what you said, well, God getting us where we want to be. I mean, I know a lot of us, we have an idea where God wants us to be, but 9 times out of 10, probably less than that, where we want to be is not where God wants us to be. I mean,
Oh, for
honestly,
sure. Yeah.
I mean,
Sometimes. Yeah.
because I know there's a lot of people that have aspirations of being a Christian rock star. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm being a Christian rock star because, especially like if you're in a band like Skillet or Thousands of a Crutch or Red, who tour with secular bands too, that's not an easy environment to be in because you go to these secular rock festivals and it's literally just a festival of sin, really. And I'm not saying secular rock is bad. I still love a lot of secular rock bands like 3 Days Grace and Breaking Benjamin and Korn. I have to filter some of the songs I choose with them. You have to use discernment in the bands you listen to, whether they're secular or the songs from said bands. You have to use discernment.
For sure. Yep.
I want to make that clear. But anyways, you're touring with these bands and you might be friends with some of these bands, but you also have a witness to show and you have to not give in to certain things. Like I remember I was reading Manifest's book, and he was doing a tour with a bunch of secular rappers and stuff. And these guys, they were all cheating on their girlfriends and wives whenever they could. Well, his wife was with him on the tour for a little bit, but then she had to go home. Well, the manager comes up to him with these 2 chicks and they said, hey, they want to meet you in your hotel room. He's like, yeah, no, thanks. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the way John Curry put it once, if God's holding you back from something, that might be the only thing that's keeping you in the kingdom. If God's holding you back from something, that might be what's keeping you in the kingdom.
Yeah. And so what God, and I agree. Yeah. Like sometimes God doesn't have us in a certain environment or doing something, and he definitely sees the big picture and he knows what's best for us, right? And so but if we're not in tune with God, if we're not a genuine Christian, if we're just using our ministry as a show to look good to others, right, we're not going to know these things, right? And so and it's and not to get off your topic here, but just another thing I want to mention. We almost, as musicians now, whether you're playing on the worship team on Sunday and that's all you do, and that is fine. That is fine if that's what you do. But as well as being, involved in the music ministry out in the secular world or in whatever aspect, right? There's so many different things you could do, but we almost have a added responsibility of being not only accountable, as you said, but making sure that our foundation is solid in what we're saying, whether to other people, to the media, especially songwriting. I know you're a songwriter as well, and so
right.
There's that aspect of it too, eh? Like making sure that
Right.
your lyrics. We talked about this briefly earlier in the episode, but how our lyrics are, biblically sound or not speaking God's name in vain.
Well, yeah.
Which is a very serious thing that I don't think enough people understand. Right?
No, you're right. And I remember I mentioned Darren Gillespie earlier, who is the clean vocalist for Endureth and also the lead singer for The Almost. And yeah, he put out a worship album, which I have. His worship album is fantastic. I still listen to it because he walked away from the faith, I examined the lyrics of the songs that are on the record, and they're still very much sound, especially since most of them are covers. But anyways, in his band, The Almost, before they even deconstructed, there's a few songs where he does take God's name in vain by the sounds of it. And because, the context, you look at the context and you're like, this isn't a worship song, so there's no way you're actually crying out to God or something. I'm having trouble reading it, but so it looks like he's taking God's name in vain, even back then. So it's a very serious offense and of course, I want to be clear, taking God's name is not just saying OMG. It's also when you put the name of God on something to justify your own agenda as well, or something like that. Because if you use God's name for your own motives, which I've seen a lot of ministries or Christians or even bands do, and of course they fall apart, they're exposed later, it's a very serious thing. Because the Ten Commandments, it says God will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain.
That's right, exactly. We want to make sure. Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
Which as well as the songwriting thing. It's why a lot of the songs that I write, not all of them, but I go check them, I actually have my pastor examine them. Especially one instance when the whole residential school thing went down. And no, there's a lot of controversy over that and different things flying back and forth about it. But either way, what happened, regardless of how many children it was was still terrible. I wrote a song about it because I felt moved to write a song about it. Well, literally, the following Sunday, that weekend, my pastor said exactly what I wrote in the song. And I was like, I had it in my notes on my phone. I was like, I showed it to him, like, am I crazy? Are we crazy? He's like, no, you got that right. That's in the Bible.
Mm-hmm. I really commend you for taking that process with your lyrics as a songwriter. Definitely, like getting them kind of checked out by your pastor, or definitely, taking the time to make sure that what you're writing is biblically sound. Because a lot of times when it comes to, if we want to just talk about songwriting and lyrics here for a second, a lot of the times we want to write, and you'll know more about this. I'm not a songwriter yet. I hope to be. I have some music things kind of on the back burner for the future, maybe 2025. But yeah, I'm not really a songwriter per se. So you might know a little bit more about this. But a lot of the times when we write, or from what I've seen people write, they write based on on a whole variety of things, whether it's a feeling, it's an emotion, it's something that, inspires them and things like that. But as a Christian, a lot of the times we can be, we'll be moved by an event, or we'll be guided by the Holy Spirit even to write stuff. And because God's involved in whatever our ministry and our spiritual gifts are, God's involved if we're connected with him. He's involved in what we're doing. And so yeah, just really briefly here, how has being a songwriter impacted you as a musician and the groups that you're a part of?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that because I've been songwriting since I was like 15, 16. Since I picked up a guitar and I was still learning guitar, I've always had a knack for writing song lyrics. I just always have. So I have easily over 100 songs written. I don't know, not all of them are going to see the light of day, obviously, because some of them are on my phone, some are on my computer, some of them are on my old computer that is now a dummy machine. Some of them are in a folder that I
know
have
that's
from
the
when
worst
I was a teenager. I know. I was like, I wrote all these songs, and I'm like, oh, my computer's not going to be fine. Well, one day I was at work and I left my laptop open. My son was a year old, maybe 2 at the time. He took my cordless mouse, put it on the computer keyboard. He thought I could close it up inside the computer. Yeah, he destroyed the screen. According to my wife, he was quite shocked at the results. But no, I mean, as for how it's impacted me in the bands I'm in, it's interesting because when you're writing for 2 different projects, it's interesting. And I've also written a few worship songs too. Not many. I'm able to tap into the worship side of me, not as well, because I write more about experience, but writing about it from a Christian perspective more than anything.
Oh, for sure.
And I always try to incorporate the scriptures into it somewhat. Like for our song After the Fire, I wrote a couple things. I wrote it based around, the chaos I was seeing in the world, how people are going woke and progressive and everything else because they don't want to give people the sads or offend anybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that, which it makes me relate back to what Paul wrote to Timothy about what would happen in the last days. And I remember one time when I called you, I read that verse to you, and it's literally, we're seeing it happen now.
Oh, definitely. 100%.
We're seeing it happen now. But anyways, I wrote that based around that, but then I also incorporated what would happen, like what happened in the story of Elijah with the prophets of Baal. And because, the verse in the pre-chorus is, how long will you falter, or will you survive after the fire? Because Elijah asked the people of Israel, how long will you go limping between 2 opinions or faltering between 2 opinions? If the Lord is God, worship him. If Baal is God, worship him. And then, of course, when fire came down and consumed the offering, the prophets of Baal were killed. They didn't survive after the fire. And that's going to happen again when Jesus comes back, because everyone who believes in him and follows him and is truly saved will go to spend eternity of peace with him. But anyone who did not, they will not survive the lake of fire. They will not survive after that. So that's what I wrote around. So I incorporate scripture into it, and the thing is with the song, you'd think like a little content like that, you think it would sound more like Tired, which Tired is mostly just screaming.
Yeah.
Just screaming for most of it. But no, I mean, After the Fire has more like if Skillet and Van Halen had a baby together, is what we all said when we wrote it. It's what it sounds like to us. But no, it's the lyrically speaking, it's like a fire and brimstone sermon, honestly, lyrically speaking.
For sure, yeah.
So,
no.
But then I've written songs for Hiraeth, where there's one song that me and Dale wrote called Paper Baggage, which it was interesting because we had 2 different sides of the story, 2 different perspectives, because his mother was an alcoholic, a bad alcoholic. And me, I struggled with alcoholism for a time in my life. For a brief time, I struggled with alcoholism. So we were having those 2 different perspectives on writing that. And, I wrote from a Christian's perspective, like, I didn't swear or anything or anything like that, but I wrote how, like, it's interesting. You see, like, alcoholics, like, they drink their whiskey out of a paper bag or something, like they're hiding it. And we all know what they're doing. It's see-through. So, and of course, the more they lie about their addiction, the more they try to cover it up. They just add more and more baggage to themselves. Like, and that's why we called it paper baggage.
For sure.
You're able to, it's interesting. Like, with Hiraeth, I mean, I have sometimes incorporated my faith into the songs sometimes with Hiraeth, not very often. And with One Degree, it's my faith. It almost always circles back to my faith. Almost always. Like there was a song I wrote called Morphine, which you may think, a Christian song called Morphine? What is that? And I'm like, but it's more about how even though I know my parents did love me, they also were not always the greatest parents to me. Especially my father, when I was a teenager and a kid, he could be quite mean, which it's kind of based around the verse, fathers do not provoke your kids to anger lest they become discouraged or lest they stumble, or depending on your translation.
Yeah, for sure.
And the chorus is, tell me, why did you abandon me and put out my eyes so I cannot see? All I'm asking for is some relief, morphine. And it's more just the pain of being, I guess for a lack of a better term, abused by your father, whether that was physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, whatever, because my dad didn't really physically abuse me, but he very much mentally and emotionally abused me growing up, and frankly, so did my mom, but side tangent. But that's what it's about, like, dealing with the pain. But in the second verse, there's a line, I'll never be like you because I've been made new. Like you have the choice to either take that trauma that you've been through and become like the people who traumatized you and who abused you, or you can turn to the Lord and let him mold you from one degree of glory to the next. That's what we call the band 1 Degree. Mold him from one degree of glory to the next into his image.
Exactly. And I think that's really important at the end of the day, regardless of our experiences and what we've gone through. I mean, 100% it's more easier said than done. I do very much understand, just saying it doesn't make it, oh, okay, well, that's simple to understand. I can just go and do it, and there you go. No issues. No, there's a whole process with things, and a lot of things do take time. But again, going back on what we were saying, God is able to take whatever we've gone through and not only mold us and forgive us from that, but again, able to use that as part of our ministry, right? And so, and that, again, for our topic on, music ministry, that really, yeah, like you said, definitely really comes out in the lyrics. And who knows, sometimes you might write something, you might wonder, okay, is this song actually going to do anything? And then someone might listen to it who is going through what the lyrics are saying. Someone might know someone with that, right? And so, again, there's really no way of knowing what we do and how it's going to touch others. And so, again, yeah, that's great. We really need to, I think, understand, that we can use our ministry and our influence in so many different aspects here. And as we're coming to the end of our episode here, just one more kind of question topic for you here, Gavin.
Okay.
I just want to kind of branch out. Now, we've talked a bit about this, but I just want to kind of, again, direct it at this question at you. So especially in today's culture, it's difficult being a Christian musician and navigating in the secular music world. With just everything that's going on. But I want to ask you personally, in your ministry, how has it been connecting with other musicians? Have you had success on that front, or have you had challenges? And what does that look like for you?
It's a bit of both. I've had some success with connecting with musicians. Like connecting with Matt was a huge blessing because he, I didn't really grow up with him, but I knew him from church, and he is a fantastic guitar player. But he also knew like how to mix audio and record stuff. So he showed me the ropes of that, how to be an audio engineer, without me having to go to school for it. Because I could go to school for it, but I have to go all the way to Orangeville as the closest place that does it. And I'm like, I can't really uproot my family over that. So I was like, okay, what do I do? Matt just showed me the ropes for that. Scott knew Matt from growing up with him, so he joined the group. So there was that success there. Drummers is the one thing I have not had a lot of success with.
They're tough to find, eh?
They're tough to find, and it's tough to find one that was willing to do the genre of music you do.
Yes,
I find,
exactly.
because one guy auditioned, but he was good, but he wasn't really into the style of music we were doing, so he fell through. And then there was another guy who he was going to audition, and my wife, sorry, was like, "What's his name?" And I was like, "Oh, it's such and such." She's like, "Oh, you don't want to audition him?" I'm like, "Why?" Because he tried to get in my pants once, and I was like, "Okay, we're not auditioning him." So I was like, okay, so I've had not success in that respect, and also with finding drummers, as I said earlier, that don't play the same style you do, or in the case of the youngest drummer that we've ever had, he tried to take over the project, and I was like, no. So that's the hard one. And keyboard players, we almost had a keyboard player, and he already had an EP of his own, I don't know, little 7-track EP out, really good stuff. It was very different from our style of music, and we very quickly found he was just trying to turn us into his backup group. So we were like, no. So connecting with musicians, especially for a Christian project, is very difficult because sometimes there's theological differences. Like, some people, like some Christians, will listen to a speaker that to be a false prophet. I will not list off any just because that's going to cause a whole lot of controversy of like, oh, he said this, so I'm not going to list something. I have my own personal list. I'm sure everyone else has their own personal list, but you may have strong differences in theology. Like, one of you may be a reformed boy like myself, the other one may be a very, very, very charismatic person. So there may be conflicts there, which at the end of the day, we're all brothers in Christ. I'm not saying we're not. We're all brothers in Christ regardless of what theology we have. Just as long as you place your faith in salvation and saving work of Jesus Christ, that's all that matters. I want to make that clear. But there's that struggle. There's also the struggle of, jam space. Like, where are you going to rehearse? Because another reason we don't have a drummer anymore is because we lost our jam space. We didn't have room for a drum kit because we were doing it in my apartment. There was no room for a drum set up there. So it's another reason we just went with drum MIDI for the drums on the EP, because it was just, in the end, it proved just to be easier and more compatible with us. So there's that. There's a lot of challenges. And honestly, even though there are some successes with the music industry, but here's the thing with being a musician. You don't do it because it's easy or because you make a lot of money. Because I tell you right now, I've not made a ton of money as a musician. You don't. But because it's funny, people think this idea, as soon as you're a musician or you release something, you immediately get a tour bus and fans and everything else. Like, no, you don't. No, you don't.
Or especially today, you'll get like a decent following on social media or your music platforms right away. And I can tell you from my perspective in media, doing this podcast, no, that's not the case.
No, it's not. It's not. It's funny. So there's a lot more challenges with the music industry than anything, especially with me being very much a conservative person. The industry, including the Christian industry, because I'm going to tell you right now, the majority of Christian labels, the majority, not all, but the greater majority are owned by secular labels. They're owned by like Sony Music Group and BMI and all this other stuff. There's only I think there's only the only staunchly Christian labels out there that I'm aware of is Tooth and Nail and its subsidiaries. Because Tooth and Nail is a Christian music label, and any of its subsidiaries are still Christian music labels. But that's the only one that I'm aware of.
There's a few that I can think of as well, but I know that they're not very popular, and people will not relate to the label to the artist when they hear it. So yeah,
no. Well, it's like, and there's a lot of Christian artists that worked on secular labels for a long time, like Skillet. Skillet just went independent with their most recent release last week. But for like, since they released Comatose, I think they were with Atlantic Records, which is a secular label.
I was going to say, yeah, weren't they with Atlantic for Collide as well too?
No, they're with Lava Records and Ardent for Collide.
Oh, yes. Because I was trying to think. I'm like, I know Alien Youth was part of that, but I wasn't sure about Collide. Yeah.
Yep. Alien Youth was with Ardent. The first release of Collide was with Ardent, but then they re-released it with the song Open Wounds with Lava Records.
Yes, that's right. Yes, there was the difference there, yes. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you there on your point.
No worries. If you want to talk to Skillet, I'm more than happy to talk to Skillet because, hey, we both saw them this past summer. They were awesome. But
they were, yeah, especially.
Oh, yeah, they were. I mean, and their opening act was pretty good, too, for being I like Adelita's Way. I mean, and little side thing. I noticed Alice Sweet is not a Christian band at all. And they have some curse words in their songs. But I noticed any song that he sang that had a curse word in it, because I know their songs, any song that had a curse word in it, he subbed it with something else. And he didn't swear for once during the set. And I'm like, okay, I think John's had an impact on you. Okay.
I was just gonna say, Skillet is definitely one of those bands, and mind you, we can definitely have you on the podcast again to go through specific Christian artists and such too, if we in the future. But yeah, Skillet is one of those bands that has the
they're very impactful.
The impact. Thank you. Yeah, they tour with. They tour with other Christian bands, but other secular bands too. And so, but they're very, very firm about, especially the tours that they're headlining. They tell their other bands, okay, we're Christians. We don't want this. We don't want this. And if you're going to play with us, you got to abide by those rules. Right. And so you're right. He definitely seems to have an impact on that. Exactly.
They do that to a certain extent, because they just finished a tour with Seether, and Seether is known for being very, not raunchy, but very brazen in their lyrics.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
And and since it was a co-headlining tour, Skillet they don't try to force their beliefs on someone, but they say, look, we are a Christian band. This is what we're about. You don't have to abide by it. Because when they toured with Nickelback back when I was in Bible college with you, they weren't the headlining act with Nickelback, but Nickelback, of course, is Nickelback. They're gonna sing about Nickelback stuff. Is the best way to put it.
That's right. Exactly. I understand that too. Yeah, it's a little, they do a little few different things, but I'm really glad at kind of how they approach touring and doing things on their end there. So,
right. No, they're very much on the line. They've openly admitted that, and there's been secular artists, members of bands that have converted to Christianity, because Skillet witnessed to them while on tour. It's not just a witness to, and this is another thing, when you're a Christian musician in the secular world, you're not just being a witness to the audience out there, you're witnessing to the other bands you're touring with. That's who you're witnessing to the most, actually.
That's right. Oh, no, exactly. And again, goes back to the point where we can use every environment that we're in order to make an impact, because in our ministries, like we mentioned, God is definitely guiding us and is there. And so the great thing is, you know what I mean? Like wherever we are in the world, God is there. And so
absolutely,
we are able to stand firm that God is with us in our ministry. And it's only by the transformative power of the Holy Spirit that we are able to be a part of what God's doing, and other people are able to be kind of drawn in, right? Because it's not
right.
We're just the messenger. We're just the person going out and obeying. Like how what's his name? The Samuel thing, the prophet Samuel. Here I am, Lord.
Send me. And
send me.
Isaiah
Exactly.
said the same thing too. Yeah.
So that's Oh, you did exactly. So yeah. Again. It's just really I think really important to understand that, right?
Yeah, but no, what we were saying earlier, like the main challenge thing with the music industry is like it's as liberal as it can get, especially even in the Christian music industry, even in the, if you can believe it, the country music industry, because country music is known for having a reputation of God bless America, just being very patriotic, and there's a lot of artists out there that are, but it's becoming pretty liberal and stuff. So, and I know you probably have some liberal listeners. I apologize, but what I mean by that is they're going in a way that is contrary to the gospel. I mean, country music is never really 100% for the gospel, anyways. But you know what I'm saying? It's getting further from that. And
and just really quickly, another thing about country music in particular, and since we've been in Bible college together, we've seen Christian music kind of change, and to the point where it's like a lot of the new Christian music is now fitting into a genre, and then they'll have a couple of years doing like Christian music of this genre. And I don't know if it's right now, but definitely the last couple years, a lot of new Christian music has been in the folk and country style.
I've noticed that too,
And
especially with worship music. Yeah.
yes. And so I have mixed opinions on that.
Yeah, I do too.
You know what I mean? But we can definitely go into that another time. So again,
Yeah.
I'd like to say thank you, Gavin, for joining us. We've
My
had a
pleasure.
great discussion today. Very, very candid, very open about just what's going on in our world today, but also how we can be, how we can be an influence for Jesus and how we can minister through our music. And it doesn't matter if it's if it's in the church, if it's being a part of a secular band, what it is. God has us placed in these areas to use our skills in order to be a light for Him, right? And so,
Right.
so again, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. Again, everyone, Gavin is a lead singer songwriter and bassist for two bands, right? A Christian rock band and a secular rock band. And so definitely, if you're into that kind of music, please do go check out his bands out, and we'll look forward to talking with you again, hopefully in the future.
Definitely. I'll be happy to be back on.
Great, thanks. So
Yeah.
that's it for today, everyone. But we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.